Hi, I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins. Welcome to Financial Lovemaking. This is where we talk about love, life, money, and how to use money as a way to build your relationships rather than destroy them. And my partner on Financial Lovemaking, Miss S. Tia Brown, is connected to me out of New York. How are you doing today, Tia?
I'm doing great. I love how you said my partner on Financial Lovemaking.
I know, right? I know. Well, you know, people get to speculating, and also I should mention, you are also the entertainment director at Jet Magazine, and you were telling me how excited you are about the upcoming cover with Lala Anthony, the wife of Carmello Anthony, who plays for the New York Knicks. And you seem to have a lot of admiration for Lala. Tell me, what's so great about Lala Anthony?
Well, here's a shot of the cover. Make sure you pick it up. It's on newsstands now. A lot of people who know about Lala Anthony's brand know that she's married to Carmello Anthony, who's, a superstar NBA player, top draft pick, about a decade ago, and very, very financially successful. I think one of the great things about Lala is that she represents an alternate look of what happily ever after can be like for a basketball wife, right? When we watch these reality shows, it's all about fighting and shopping and being sexy, and really that's about it. Lala's had a very successful run on VH1 with the show is called Lala's Full Court Life. And in that show, we see no smack boxing, no fighting, no shopping. It's really about her maintaining a healthy relationship with her loved ones, friends, family, husband, child, and building her brand. And one of the great things that we talked about during this cover story is, what is behind that drive to still have your own career, still have your own life, and kind of still be a loving, doting wife who kind of puts things in order for her husband in terms of being able to support him in the way he does. And I loved her response. She was just like, I enjoy being an independent woman, meaning, I can be supportive of my husband, but I like to be able to spend my money and do the things that I have to do and know that I will never be financially dependent on someone else. And I was just like, that's amazing, because it's kind of like once you have a child with someone, which they have a son, and then get married, financially you'll never be in a situation where you'll need. But the fact that she's saying, I have those things, but I still want to cultivate myself. I want to be a fully rounded person, and part of that is developing businesses and maintaining friendships that are healthy. Now, mind you, she has friendships with some of Hollywood's hottest: Kim Kardashian, Ciara, Kelly Rowland, Serena Williams. These are like her running crew, and we see them on the show. No one's arguing, no one's petty, and I just love that she can show that aspect. And one of the other things that I was extremely surprised to hear, but impressed by, was on the show we see that they have a house in LA, and Lala shared that, in this house, I should say, it's kind of like a cottage style house. It's not a huge sprawling mansion that you would expect to see with, from someone who's an NBA player. And she shared that she bought that house with her own money because she felt like it was important to have something that was her own. In addition to that, it was something that she had always dreamed of doing, buying a house in Los Angeles. And she did it on her own, and her husband was fully supportive. And that's why it's not, some 7,000 square foot house. It's a house that she can afford, and it's still a family house, but it's her home. And I was just really impressed by her desire to have things that were separate but also together, and continue to contribute to her household financially, emotionally, and, and being loving. So that's my story. I sound like the super fan for Lala, but I think that when women are looking at the model of what life with someone who can be super successful, super, handsome, you have this crazy lifestyle, I think Lala is kind of an interesting prototype to explore. This is a great way to be. And every woman is not going to want to be a businesswoman, but you can still do you and have success in another way as well. So that's my spiel.
Well, it sounds like she's the anti-basketball wife, that she is, she's readily willing to accept the idea that she's married to a rich and famous basketball player, but that does not define her. It's not. You can almost compare it to the mayonnaise on a sandwich. The mayonnaise will make the meat taste better, but you don't want a mayonnaise sandwich with no meat. And that's kind of what sometimes you get when someone says, I'm a basketball wife, therefore I am. as opposed to I am this person and I'm also a basketball wife, right? I happen to be married to someone who plays basketball, but that doesn't make me a person that has necessarily accomplished something in my life. And so when you turn on shows like Basketball Wives or even Real Housewives sometimes, and you see those cases where there's a person who, where you say, well, what have you accomplished in your life? And they say, well, my achievement was I married a wealthy man. It just doesn't sound right. It doesn't feel right, right? It doesn't mean you necessarily can judge it, but it's sort of like, okay, that's it. So you hooked up with a rich guy, and so what did you do? Wait on the corner for him to come by and offer you the chance to be with him? What have you done with your life that would have occurred had you not been fortunate enough to marry a multimillionaire? So the idea that marrying the right person becomes a profession in itself it's a little bit anti-progress, I mean, you go back 100 years, you did have that, right? You had women that went to college just to find a husband. And maybe we should move forward from that. At least when I talk to my girls, I don't talk to them about picking a man as a way to define them. In fact, the cases I've seen where women have done that, a lot of times they end tragically. I know a couple of women who both of them have similar stories. They dropped out of school when they were 22, 23, because they met the right guy, and the guy got rich. One woman's husband became a doctor, the other woman's husband became a dentist, and they were friends. That's how I know both of their stories. But there are thousands of others like them. And then in their mid-40s, they bumped into each other again. They hadn't seen each other for 15 years. They ran into each other again in a mental hospital because literally each of them had hit such low points in their relationships that they attempted suicide. And they were literally in the same facility. And one woman told me the story, and she said that she saw her friend, and she said, "Becky, is that you?" And she's like, "Oh my God, I haven't seen you for 20 years." She's like, "Why are you here?" She said, "Oh, I tried to kill myself." And she said, "Oh my God, I tried to kill myself too." Like, so it was like this happy yet sad reunion. And the way their stories went, one of the women, her husband had literally, when she hit maybe 42, 43, he left her for his, it sounds stereotypical, but it did happen. He left her for his 25-year-old dental assistant. The other woman, I think, was still married to her husband, the doctor, who had money, but the marriage was dead, and she was incredibly unhappy. And when you asked her, well, why do you stay in this marriage when you're not happy? She said, I stay because of the money, because I need the money. I know I can't take care of myself. And her friend who was out of her marriage actually wanted to be back in it because when her husband left, he left her with nothing. Her kids, she had 2 kids in private school. They couldn't keep their house. They got evicted. They were in financial ruin, and she didn't know how to survive because she hadn't worked since she was in college. So
crazy.
So these stories are quite common, and I think Lala's story is a way to kind of counterbalance that to ensure that you have the happy ending you expect, right?
Definitely. And I think that one of the key things about her story is that there's not an expectation when you have a wealthy partner that you guys will be equal financially. But the financial lovemaking rule that comes to mind is develop a healthy financial body for yourself. And that means you need to be able to create a financial portfolio for yourself, meaning bank account, job, business, whatever it is, where you can sustain yourself regardless of what's happening. Not only does this prevent you from being in total ruin should catastrophe happen, it also gives you a peace of mind and confidence that I think exudes in a relationship, because it's very easy for people to treat you poorly when they know that you don't have a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out. You become kind of disposable because you're at their whim. So I definitely think that's the bigger lesson to take from this. Exactly what you're saying. You should always make sure that you sustain yourself. Your life should not be financially, emotionally, or physically completely intertwined around someone else. What do you think, Boyce?
Yeah, I would say that whenever your identity and your well-being are dependent upon someone else's actions, you are always at risk. You are always at risk. And we've just seen too many cases that have ended tragically to know that. I've actually gotten a lot of letters and emails. When I first started working on the Financial Lovemaking Project years ago, I started on it because I was getting emails and letters from a lot of women, many of whom were married to either wealthy men and a lot of them literally were basketball wives, but not the ones you see on TV. Their stories, had ended quite tragically. One story I can think of in particular that I remember was a woman that lived in Europe because she dated a guy who played in the NBA for a couple years and he didn't have much education. Unfortunately, like a lot of professional athletes don't, and because they sort of push them through school and they tell them as long as you can dribble a basketball, you don't need to learn how to read. And a lot of guys fall for that, which makes me quite sad. And so when the NBA ended, he went over to Europe, and she said that he played in Europe for a decade, and they lived lavishly. She said we would go on vacation and spend $10,000-$15,000 like it was nothing. And then he got injured. He couldn't play basketball anymore. So he was crumbling because his identity had left him. His whole life, all he thought he was meant to be was a basketball player, which that was his mistake right there. You need to have a plan A, not a plan B. You need a plan A, which says I am this thing, and then I'm also a basketball player. So this dysfunction, it doesn't just apply to women. So once he got injured, couldn't play anymore, he started digging deeper into many of the addictions that came with the lifestyle of being a baller, right? He smoked a lot of weed, messed around with a lot of women, so he brought home the STDs along with the paycheck, all these other things. And then eventually he just piled up and left. And when he left, there was nothing but debt. There were no assets accumulated over the years. I guess he thought he was going to play basketball till he was 100 years old. And she said, so where I am, Dr. Boyce, is I'm 37 years old. I have 2 kids. I don't have a college degree. I haven't worked in 15 years. I have $60,000 in debt. And I think she said I make $18,000 a year. What do I do? I said, I don't know. I really was like, it's like, what do you do? It's like, maybe you can build a time machine and go back and remake the last 15 years of your life. But I assume that wouldn't have been a helpful suggestion. But she was going to go home and live with her parents in New Jersey, because she had nowhere to go. She was stuck. The man that she leveraged everything on was gone. That life that she thought she'd have until she was old was gone. The future that she could have built for herself was gone. So I would say that you can learn. I think people can learn from watching Basketball Wives, and they can learn from watching Lala. From Basketball Wives, maybe you can learn a lot of what you shouldn't do, right? The worst ways to define your life. Mm-hmm. And watching Lala, it sounds like you can get some good lessons on how to be a true baller in this world. It sounds like Lala's balling as much as Carmello in terms of, and I'm not talking about financial balling, I'm talking about balling when it comes to having a wealthy life. Remember, that's another principle of financial lovemaking. It's the wealth in your life is not just defined by how much money you have. It's defined by your happiness, your health, the quality of your relationships, all those things. Money is merely a tool and a supplement to an overall quality life. And that's what I just love about Lala. And I'm especially intrigued by their relationship because, as you know, Carmello, he was at Syracuse for about 10 minutes where I used to teach. And I was concerned about it because, when they brought Carmello in, I don't think there was any plan amongst anyone to get him a college degree. It was like, this guy can help us win a championship, which he did. The school made about $20 million, and then Carmello went off to the NBA. So at that point, you don't know what's going to happen with his future. Is he going to be successful over the long haul, or is he going to be another Allen Iverson? I didn't know. So the fact that he's found this great woman by his side and made this amazing investment in this life that they have together, and from what we're seeing, it looks like it's going quite well. I'm very, very happy for them. I'll let you get the last word, Tia.
Yeah. So one thing I definitely have to comment on is for all the women and men watching, with that anecdotal situation that you shared, there is always hope, and change is in the moment. You can start to rebuild your life immediately, but like you said, it will take a plan and it will take time. So for anyone who feels like they're in a hopeless situation because of bad decisions they made in the past, know that a 1, 2, 3 year plan can dramatically change where your future is after that. No, you might not be in the same place that you were before, but you can be in a better place. As far as Lala, I definitely want to say, her life isn't going to be one that everyone can replicate, where you're going to have a multimillionaire and you're going to have many businesses. But what you said is actually the biggest lesson. You can lead a wealthy life by choice. And she has great friends, not to say that she doesn't have issues with friends. She has a good marriage, not to say that her marriage is perfect and will last forever, but they have a good foundation. And she is fulfilled professionally. And not to say all of her businesses will thrive forever, but she's doing what she wants and what she loves. And that is something that's attainable for everyone. So, I definitely think that that's the lesson here. And we'd love to hear your thoughts about Lala. This is the issue. I want to remind everyone, make sure to pick it up on stands now. And thanks for tuning in to Financial Lovemaking.
Bye-bye now.